Welcome to Above Replacement Radio. I am your host, Chris Gianta. I might be becoming a bad baseball fan who can't enjoy the romantic things because of advanced statistics. 15 years from now, I want to be on the early baseball committee. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran.
I literally have the Fangraphs hoodie, the baseball reference t-shirt, just repping some stats, you know what I'm saying?
It's not necessarily Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily above average, but we can guarantee you we are better than just the standard replacement level college sophomore.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio, where we're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I am doing well today. If you listened to the last episode, you would know that both of us are now officially college graduates. We had our Springfield College graduation yesterday, and it is now, it's weird to say our summer because it's not like we're going back to school. So
Right.
It's now just our forever summer where but instead of school, it's work, and there's never actual time off like this.
Right. Yeah. It's very interesting. I still kind of have to tell myself that I'm not going back to school in the fall.
Yep.
Because when I leave, when I left the school, I was like, I'm kind of ready for, I'm kind of ready for summer, kind of ready for some time off from school. But time off from school is like the rest of my life.
Yeah, but except, it's not like it's truly time off forever. But
Yeah,
hey,
no.
yeah, we did it. We both graduated yesterday, and I don't know.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
It is interesting. And yeah, the pod goes on. I was hoping to make it clear that, like, with the promotion of the episode, that was not the last episode ever. And this is confirmation that it was not. It was just our last one from Springfield College campus.
Yes.
But yeah, the baseball goes on. We're smack in the middle of it. And some teams going in different trends, kind of what we do at this point in the year. And the Padres have dipped below 500. In fact, dipped three games below 500. They are now 19-22. They have lost 7 of their last 8, with 5 of those losses coming against the Dodgers. And we were talking about before the show, if this were any other team, and they lost a bunch to the Dodgers, it wouldn't really be news. But this is a team that they're fighting against the Dodgers in that division. What have you been seeing from the Padres and their struggles?
Yeah, I looked into why things aren't going well for them, and it was very, very easy to see right away. They are not hitting at all whatsoever. Since May 6th, in which they are, 2-6, they are hitting 184 as a team. They have an on-base percentage of 251, and they have a slugging percentage of 312. All of those are overwhelmingly the worst in the majors over that span. They have a 57 weighted runs created plus as a team, and that's pretty terrible. Just to give you an idea individually, they have had 86 plate appearances in the last 8 games that have gone to guys with negative weighted runs created plus, which is like impossibly bad. It's Trent Grisham, Matt Carpenter, Nelson Cruz, Austin Nola, Brent Sullivan, Adam Engel as well. And those are the ones that have got a negative weighted runs created plus over the time. And they've also given a lot of plate appearances to Jake Cronenworth with his 50 weighted runs created plus, to Manny Machado with his 41, to Xander Bogaerts with his 59, and to Ha-Seong Kim with his 49. So the only guys that are really hitting like profoundly well in any sort of way are Juan Soto, who's been like one of the best hitters in the league during this time, and Fernando Tatis Jr., who he's come back from suspension and has looked great so far.
Yeah, for sure. It looks like they have the worst weighted runs created plus in baseball in this little span here. And I believe they've scored the least amount of runs. They've scored the second least amount of runs in baseball in this span, just ahead of the Pirates, who are also a team who was doing well and it is now struggling. But yeah, the Padres have scored 19 runs in 8 games. That's less than 2.5. Not very good.
Their pitching has also been very funny because they have a 3.21 ERA as an entire staff, starters and bullpen, but they have a FIP of 4.87.
Yeah,
So they've been incredibly lucky. They have a team BABIP against of 214. That is overwhelmingly the lowest in the majors in the time. So, the pitching has gotten every single break, and the offense just isn't stepping up.
Yeah, and it is understandable going against the Dodgers staff because two of their last three series have been against the Dodgers. However, there's a balance with that. You could be like, okay, they they're facing a tough team, so they're losing a little bit, so they're losing more. But also, they were sort of projected by many as the NL West favorite, according to just those projections by like Fangraphs. I think Baseball Reference probably also. They were kind of the consensus favorite in the NL West. So they should be at least being competitive with the Dodgers, and we have not seen that whatsoever.
The Padres as a franchise are just so weird. Every time they go all in, it just blows up in their face. And I'm not ready to say that it's over now because I mean Xander Bogaerts and Manny Machado are going to hit better. They're going to be giving less than 86 plate appearances to guys with a negative weighted runs created plus over any given 8 game span going forward. It's definitely not over, but I mean I think at this point wild card is the most realistic option because they are 7 games behind the Dodgers, I believe. And that's going to be really tough to make up regardless of who's on the Dodgers this year.
Right, right. Yeah, being games back at this point in the season, not great. And it's not like the Dodgers have really gone. It's not like the Dodgers have been that like absolute dominant force quite yet. And I think it's kind of we've kind of discussed it how they really seem to just as a franchise turn it up in like June, July, August. The
Yeah.
Dodgers do. And maybe that's a non-analytical way to look at it, but that just seems to be the trend. And yeah, in these Dodgers games, I mean, I guess the one sort of silver lining you can point to is most of them have been very competitive games. In these five Dodgers losses, one of them was one of them was a one-run loss. The next one, they were an out away from winning, except Mookie Betts, hit a clutch game tying home run, and the Dodgers eventually won it in extra innings. And then in this most recent sweep, two of the losses were by 2 runs. It was a 4-2 ball game. So it's mostly about waking the bats up because that's been their problem, and that's when the bats aren't being woken up, that's when you're going to lose close games like that.
Yeah, that's kind of just what's happening right now. Yeah, I would imagine the run differential isn't like terrible during this time, but it's still, I mean, when you're hitting that bad, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's 29-19, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, but because it looks a little bit, I guess it looks a little bit better because when you're not allowing that many runs, but you're also not scoring that many runs, the difference isn't going to be as big as if you're scoring a lot of runs but also allowing a lot of runs and losing. Because there's just a lot less room for variance.
Mhm.
Um,
Looking into their pitching more specifically, Josh Hader has struggled during this time. He's only made 2 appearances naturally because, I mean, you're not going to get many appearances when you are losing all the time as a closer. But he did give up that home run to Mookie Betts. That's the difference between, a 2-8 or a 2-6 run and a 3-5 run, which is not nearly doesn't look nearly as detrimental. You're only 1 win away from having been 500. But he did give up that home run, and that was tough. The starting rotation overall has been fine. Michael Wacha has made only 1 start at the time, only in this time, but he pitched very well. He only gave up 1 run over 6 innings. Joe Musgrove has made 2 starts. He has a 3.38 ERA. Blake Snell has pitched 12 innings with a 3 ERA. Yu Darvish has a 3 ERA in 6 innings. Seth Lugo has the exact same thing. So it's the rotation's been fine. The bullpen has been okay. There was obviously that Hader home run that really made the difference there, but it looks like a lot of the bullpen people have given up some homers. Brent Honeywell has given up a homer in this time in just 5 1/3 innings pitched. Ryan Weathers has done the same. Josh Hader, obviously, and then Tim Hill has given up 2 in 4 innings. So I mean,
right.
the home run ball has certainly been haunting the bullpen.
Yeah, and Tim Hill's a big ground ball guy, so pretty surprising to
Yes.
see home runs being given up like that. But yeah, and I guess also another silver lining is the pitching staff, or at least the starting rotation, is doing well against a, albeit like somewhat compromised, but still very, very good Dodgers lineup. We know they lost both Turners over the past year, but they're still a very, very good lineup there, and they've shown it this past season.
Yeah.
As far as the Padres' future goes, they have a good series to bounce back in this upcoming week against the Royals. They got 3 against the Royals at Petco Park. Then they host the Red Sox for 3, who just came off a pretty brutal sweep, not in the sense of a run differential, but in the sense that they
No.
played 2 games, and then got crushed on Sunday Night
Yeah, there were
Baseball.
two very winnable games in there that they
Yes,
lost. In fact, they were leading in the two of them in
yes,
both of them.
yeah,
So
leading in the
that's
ninth
not
and
good.
in 2 of them. So
Yeah.
they host the Royals and Red Sox, and then after that they go on the road to face the Nationals, who haven't been quite the easy out that we would project them to be so far, but still the Padres are a much better team than the Nationals.
Yeah, the
Um,
Nationals have been, interesting this year. I mean, they're definitely below 500, but they're not outrageously. Yeah, they're 17 and 20. Only 2.5 games behind the New York Mets.
yeah, right.
Yikes.
Yikes. Um, so yeah, anything more on the Padres?
I think we kind of covered all the bases there.
Yeah, not it's if this were not that it's this segment that but this is slightly alarming. This isn't very alarming. Um, they we still got 120 plus games to go here with the Padres. It's more just that it might be looking like the Padres Dodgers regular season series is going to go similar to last year, but we saw last year that didn't end up really mattering because the Padres beat the Dodgers in the playoffs. So, yeah, baseball can be weird sometimes. Be weird sometimes. Um, all right, so uh, last bit of news we'll get into is the is that another Rays pitcher down. Drew Rasmussen went on the 60-day IL with an elbow issue. I forget the exact term. I think it was a flexor, something elbow flexor. But
Mhm.
he's going on the 60-day IL, I believe. Um, I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, I've said this many times on this show, but like somebody genuinely needs to investigate this organization because this doesn't happen anywhere else where so many pitchers go down specifically with elbow issues or long-term injuries. It does not happen in any other organization, and it happens to a lot of younger guys who are kind of starting to break out. Rasmussen really started to break out late last year. Jeffrey Springs made a couple good starts this year and then went down with Tommy John surgery. Tyler Glasnow has been having injury issues in his rehab assignments. Yeah, it's not been good. There's no other way of putting it. Andrew Kittredge, Shane Boz, uh, Garrett or not Garrett Clevenger. Yeah, there have been so many in the last 2 or 3 years where every single Rays pitcher, uh, just finds a way to uh be in a long term injury situation.
Yeah, we've seen that like even going back far enough. Yanni Chirinos had Tommy John surgery. He was sort
Yeah,
of promising at the time
Colin
back end.
Poche.
Yeah, Poche, Chaz Rowe, big time. Um, Along with Nick Anderson, I think got Tommy John surgery. He's with the Braves now, actually doing
Yeah,
pretty well. But
even
um,
like Brandon McKay.
yeah,
If you remember him.
right, yeah, like it's we don't have any statistical data on it quite yet, unless we really dug in, tried to get some good research going. But I'd imagine that elbow issue leaderboard is like them. It'll look like the 1920 home run leaderboard, like Babe Ruth with
Yeah,
54, and then the next best at 19. Like it, it's rough. I don't know what to say here. And it affects the team very poorly because yeah, looking at the roster resource, which I imagine you are, um,
Yeah, no,
they,
I mean, how many? They have one, two, three, four, five. They have six pitchers currently on the 60-day IL, and Garrett Clevenger is one of them, and he got injured in like that freak play, the rundown play. So,
yeah,
that's one you can chalk up to, just unfortunate. Sean Armstrong had neck tightness, so that's another one where it's not. elbow stuff. But yeah, Drew Rasmussen is a strained flexor. He's already gotten 2 Tommy John surgeries, believe it or not, and I don't know if he's going to get another one. But he's on the 60-day IL, and it's yeah, someone needs to figure out what's going on there and why this happens to the Rays far more than anybody else.
Yeah, 60-day IL, you don't do that when something's not serious. Um, but yeah, like
And
I'm looking at
they
the
did it the
roster
day after his
resource.
start. Like he pitched very well on Monday against the Yankees, or on Thursday against the Yankees, excuse me, and they put him on the 60-day IL the next day.
Yeah, that's wild.
And nothing looked very clearly bad in that start. Like he came out, pitched well, and it's like, oh yeah, he's out for maybe the rest of the year.
Right. And the team suffers because of it. When you look at the roster resource, you see only three starters out there. One of them is Josh Fleming, which was not supposed to, he was not supposed to be a starter. It's supposed to be
Yeah.
like a
Yeah, I mean,
long reliever.
after the first weekend, we were talking about a rotation with McClanahan, Jeffrey Springs, Zach Eflin, Tyler Glasnow, and Drew Rasmussen. That's a really good 5-man rotation. But now only 2 of them are on the active roster, and Zach Eflin also had a brief injury. Luckily he's back and seems fine. But yeah, I mean, 4 out of the 5 have been injured at some point this year, and it's
Yeah,
May 15th.
and this is a team that got out to a fantastic start. However, that does not mean, especially in this division, that does not mean a crazy amount. I mean, it's definitely good, but they're 5 up on the Orioles, but it's mid-May. When you only have 2 starting pitchers, um, 2 like at least consistent starting pitchers who you expect consistent innings out of, that's going to lower your chances a lot. You could argue like the Orioles, even if they don't have as good of a rotation as the as the Rays do, they might have a
Yeah.
deeper rotation than the Rays do at this point. Like that's not something you want if you're a Rays fan. Um, but yeah, and yeah, so it definitely worsens their chances at doing well. And also, I think we saw in the 2021 playoffs when their rotation is not as deep as they want it to be, it kind of has a greater effect in the playoffs.
It absolutely does. Yeah. I mean, Rasmussen, was starting, I think, game 3 of those playoffs, and no disrespect to him in 2021, but he was not the pitcher that he, was at the end of 2022 and 23. That did not look like a strong matchup for the Rays. And yeah, I mean, we could be going into the same thing next in October because, I mean, this team is realistically going to the playoffs at this point. They're 31-11. It would take a lot for them to not make it there, at least in the wild card setting. But at this point, you can't say anything for sure. Especially with that injury history, or that large group of injuries within the rotation. And even if they do get there, there's certainly questions on how far they'll go, because the bullpen hasn't been performing particularly well over the recent span. They just blew a 6-0 lead against the Yankees. They almost blew a lead yesterday against them as well. The bullpen has not been the, impenetrable force that we've known it to be for a couple of years now.
Yeah, for sure. When when you have to come in like the 4th or 5th inning,
Mm.
following some guys that don't have as much starting pitching experience, you're going to be compromised a little bit. And I wonder if that affects the Rays bullpen health, because there's going to be guys that are going to get more innings, maybe more innings than they should be getting, and it might affect them and might put them on the IL, because that activity is not something that they're necessarily prepared for.
In the month of May, the Rays are tied. The Rays as a team are tied for the second lowest bullpen wins above replacement in the majors. They're behind Oakland and tied with Texas. They have 6.99 strikeouts per nine as a unit, 4.39 walks per nine, and 1.14 home runs per nine. And that very easily could have been worse. Aaron Judge had a ball yesterday that almost tied the game in the ninth. It didn't though, but that could have been a home run given up by Jason Adam. Looking specifically at it, yeah, Josh Fleming we mentioned has 12 and a third innings pitched in the month of May, has a 5.84 ERA and a 7.76 FIP. That's not good to put it quite simply.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And since what date is this is the
Month of May.
bullpen? Month of May, yeah. So yeah, that's a solid 2 week span. Not really a small sample size when you're talking about the entire team.
No.
Um, so yeah, part of it could definitely be attributed to Rays coming back to earth a little bit. They're 5-5 in their last 10. And they were due to, not be winning 80% of the games they were playing. However, yeah,
Oh,
injuries
absolutely.
injuries are not going to help them. It certainly didn't help them last year. That's a lot of the reason why
Yeah, and
they
that's
had a sorry.
yeah, no, that's exactly why they, kind of underperformed.
Yeah, like that's pretty much the most of the reasoning of why they had a 14 win drop from 2021 to 2022. They went from 100 wins to 86 wins. And now a lot of that had to do with position players, so which is, not necessarily the same issues that the pitchers are having. But even Andrew Kittredge, like that was their closer in 2021. He got injured 2022, wasn't really much of a factor at all. And there were probably a couple other guys that I'm forgetting right now,
Hmm.
um but yeah, like injuries, a healthy Rays team can be really dangerous, but that's a lot to ask for. Um
No doubt.
all right. Anything more before we get into players to highlight?
Let's just do it.
All right. So now we shall get into the um Monday, May 15, 2023 edition of
How about that?
who do you have for us today?
So my how about that for today is Nick Prado, a former player to watch of yours for the Kansas City Royals, and he's been killing it lately. Since April 28th, he is slashing 377, 468, 585, 1053 for a 193 weighted runs created plus. That 193 weighted runs created plus ranks seventh in that span amongst all qualifiers. So he's been one of the best hitters in the league for the last 2.5 weeks. During this span, he has a line drive rate of 36.1%, and that ranks eighth highest among the 247 hitters with at least 25 batted balls in that span. His sweet spot rate in this span is 44.4%, tied for the 14th highest on that same list. Getting more specifically into it, 27.8% of his batted balls have had a launch angle between 10 to 15 degrees. That is the highest rate on that list of 247, and it is 6.4% above the second highest. His BABIP on such batted balls is 900, and his expected batting average is 761. So it hasn't been too much of an accident that he's been hitting extremely well on those types of balls, and he's been hitting a far higher percent of them than anyone else. During the span, half of his batted balls have been up the middle, and he is hitting 611 on such balls, the third highest in the majors, and he is slugging 889 at the 10th highest. So Nick Prado was one of the, many young Royals bats that people were hoping to see break out last year. We saw a little bit of it last year, and we've quietly seen it a lot in the last 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, Nick Prado.
How about that?
Looks like it's crossing another team off the list here.
No, it is not.
Oh yeah.
It is for us, but
yeah.
Foolish Baseball. Bailey came in here and talked about Chris Bubich before he went down for a while.
Yeah. Shout out to Foolish Bailey. Yeah, so my how about that is someone he's somewhat a little bit higher profile, but just what he's been doing this season has really popped off. And also I think I kind of have a rule where, like, if you're not on the MLB top 100 right now, not that I knew, but I just looked it up, then you're eligible for how about that. And he was not on the MLB top 100 right now. So I'm talking about Sonny Gray, who in 8 starts this year has a 1.39 ERA and a 1.89 FIP in 45 and a third innings pitched. And out of 75 qualifiers, he leads the MLB in ERA and ranks third in FIP while leading the AL in FIP. He did not have good strikeout and walk numbers in his first start, but since then in those 7 starts after. He has a 34.4% strikeout rate, 32.2% whiff rate, and a 1.45 FIP. His strikeout rate ranks 4th highest in the span. His whiff rate ranks 7th out of 119 pitchers with 200 plus swings against them in this span. Overall, from 2022 to 2023, his whiff rate has gone from 22% to 31%. And he has the best year-to-year change in whiff rate out of any starter in baseball. And a lot of it has to do with how effective his breaking pitches have been. His whiff rate on his curveball and sweeper have both been increased by at least 13 percentage points. So that is going to obviously make things a lot easier for Sonny Gray. What is also fascinating to me about Sonny Gray, specifically this year, he uses 5 pitches at least 16% of the time. I don't know if any other pitcher in baseball has that type of pitch mix where they're using that variety of pitches that often. He uses 5 pitches at least 16% of the time, and only one of the pitches has a slugging against over 267. And what has been added to the pitch mix for Sonny Gray is his cutter. He went from throwing his cutter one singular time last year to making it his 2nd most used pitch, and hitters are slugging 200 against it. So it's been a really big benefit for Sonny Gray to add his cutter, which he uses almost 20% of the time now, and hitters only slugging 200 against it. So that is it seemed to be very rewarding that he added it to his mix. So Sonny Gray.
How about that?
Yeah, that does cross the team off the list. And yeah, I mean, he had been begging for us to talk about him because he's been doing it all year. And he was one of the last pitchers to give up a home run too.
Yeah, right. I don't think he.
Has he still not?
I think he still hasn't given up a home run.
That would make him the only pitcher to do so.
Yeah. So
that's pretty cool.
Good on him. And I'd still argue the strikeout numbers are more impressive than that because he has made a great improvement in that. He had like a 24% strikeout rate, which was pretty good last year, but now it's if you round, it's 31%. All right, so now we go from the highs to the lows. We're talking players or subjects that have been underperforming with our Monday, May 15, 2023 edition of
Slightly Alarming.
Who do you have for us today?
Yeah, so my slightly alarming is one of the premier players in all of baseball, and he just hasn't been performing to his level lately. It's Julio Rodriguez of the Seattle Mariners. Since April 22nd, he is slashing 157, 244, 300 for a 544 OPS and a 56 weighted runs created plus. He also has a 33.3% strikeout rate in this time, and that is the 8th highest in the majors. Before this span, 4.6% of his batted balls were above 50 degrees. And in this span, it is up to 15.9% of his batted balls. So he is popping the ball up a lot more. And that's really the only thing that's going wrong for him on the contact side. He's still hitting the ball hard. But he's obviously popping it up a lot more. But the real problems have been with his ability to connect. Before this span, his outside contact rate was 64.6%, and in this span, it is down to 50.7%. It has gone down nearly 14%. His zone contact rate has gone from 87.5% to just 78%. So he's swinging and missing a lot more on pitches in the strike zone. And his overall contact rate has gone from 77% to 65.4%. So he is missing the ball a lot more. And most of his struggles have been against fastballs this season. He is hitting and slugging 100 against fastballs in the span, and that 100 slugging ranks tied for the 11th worst among the 328 hitters with at least 10 plate appearances that have ended on fastballs this season. So Julio Rodriguez, he's not hitting well. He's striking out a lot. He's popping the ball up a lot more. And, the Mariners are still kind of hovering 500, and they need to get their superstar going.
Yeah, Julio Rodriguez.
Slightly alarming.
And I guess if you wanted to be optimistic, you could say, it's a little similar to last year. Like, Julio Rodriguez struggled at the start. Mariners kind of weren't what they were supposed to be at the start. Maybe it could be like last year. However, you can't rely on stuff like that. It could be a longer term issue. Who knows? But yeah, Rodriguez struggling to start the year. My slightly alarming is a different outfielder. Over in Queens, he's been really struggling. Starling Marte, in his last 23 games, he is hitting 205 with a 444 OPS. And out of 176 qualifiers, his slugging ranks the lowest, and his OPS ranks second lowest. His strikeout rate went from 12% before the span to 22% in the span, and his walk rate went from 13% before the span to 3%. And then as far as contact goes, but batted ball profile goes, his line drive rate also went from 24% before the span to 19% in the span. I guess the most alarming thing is his athleticism is kind of faltering at this point. It kind of makes sense going into his mid-30s. His sprint speed has gone from the 68th percentile in all of baseball to the 40th percentile in all of baseball. That sprint speed is very important. He was a guy who, in 2 months alone with the A's, I think had like 20 stolen bases, which was absolutely crazy. And that was only 2 years ago. So that sprint speed going away, it takes away a lot of what he does well. And also his outfielder jump has gone from the 58th percentile to the 11th percentile in all of baseball. So that, along with him really not hitting the ball well at all, makes it for my
slightly alarming.
All right, so that does it for the players to highlight.
It does.
All right, I'll re-invite you for the last segment.
Oh, right, yeah.
So now we get into the final segment of the show where we preview the week ahead. I will get into series to watch. Daniel will look at the day-by-day pitching matchups. For series to watch, they're not a crazy amount of playoff contenders matching up against each other. A very good series to watch, maybe not maybe not based off the records this year, but I think just based off of trends right now. Cardinals Brewers. I think this is a really important series for the St. Louis Cardinals. They're coming off sweeping the Red Sox in a pretty clutch series for them. The Brewers, I don't think, have been doing crazy hot the last week or two.
They haven't.
So I think this makes for a pretty even matchup. And also the Cardinals, if they want to catch up in the NL Central, they're going to have to do pretty well in this series. A sweep would really, really help them out and really help out their NL Central chances that they were favored to win. Another just a fun series to watch will be Rangers Braves. Two teams, they have the exact same record of 25-15. And I think the premier series to watch in this upcoming week is the Blue Jays and Yankees at Rogers Center. I think it's always pretty fun when these two teams match up. They're pretty evenly matched. So, starting pitcher wise, offense wise, there's a lot of different players to watch. So yeah, take a look at Blue Jays Yankees this upcoming week. What do you have for the day-by-day pitching matchups?
So tonight, the Angels are in Baltimore visiting the Orioles, and we got a good matchup tonight. Shohei Ohtani versus Grayson Rodriguez, two very exciting pitchers, obviously. Alek Manoah will be going tonight for the Blue Jays against the Yankees. The Yankees have yet to announce their starter tonight. George Kirby and Tanner Houck will face each other in Mariners Red Sox at Fenway. Freddie Peralta will be facing the Brewers tonight for the Cardinals. Will be facing Jack Flaherty, who's struggled this year. Jameson Taillon and Framber Valdez will face each other in Cubs and Astros in Houston. That'll be fun. Honestly, that's gonna be real with you. That's there's not really a matchup of the night tonight. I guess it might be Ohtani versus Grayson Rodriguez. So yeah, I kind of went through that early. Hunter Green will pitch for the Reds against the Rockies in Coors Field. Alex Wood will face the Phillies for the Giants. Pablo Lopez and Noah Syndergaard will face each other in Twins Dodgers. Yeah, matchup of the night, I'm gonna go with Ohtani versus Gray Rod. Not too many crazy matchups tonight, but that's definitely the one that sticks out the most. And then on Tuesday, you have Luis Ortiz, my Pirates player to watch, going against Michael Lorenzen in Pirates Tigers in Detroit. That'll be fun. Jesus Luzardo will face the Nationals for the Marlins in Marlins Park. Kevin Gausman will face the Yankees for the Blue Jays in Rogers Center. Luis Castillo will face the Red Sox for the Mariners in Fenway. Justin Verlander will face the Rays for the Mets in Citi Field. That's an interesting series. Although the Rays have not announced their starter because they have none. As we mentioned earlier, obviously. Jordan Montgomery will face the Brewers for the Cardinals in St. Louis. Shane Bieber will face the White Sox for the Guardians at Guaranteed Rate Field. The We Will Play 500 ball this year. Rockies will be putting Chase Anderson on the mound in the year of our Lord 2023. So that'll be a fun one if you're a Reds fan. Brady Singer will face the Padres for the Royals in San Diego. Zach Wheeler and Alex Cobb. That's a fun matchup for Chris. They'll face each other in Phillies Giants in San Francisco. Bailey Ober and Clayton Kershaw will face each other in Twins Dodgers. And matchup of the night comes from Cubs Astros again. Or no, it's not. Sorry, again. It'll be Justin Steele versus Christian Javier.
Yeah, that's
two of the most interesting young pitchers in the game.
Yeah, and if you're a Phillies player, don't you dare get in scoring position against Alex Cobb. It's gonna make you pay.
You're gonna need to hit like triples with the men on first to have any shot.
Yeah.
Which luckily you'll be in San Francisco, so that's very possible. On Wednesday, you have a couple of former Red Sox lefties, Rich Hill and Eduardo Rodriguez, going against each other in Pirates Tigers. Graham Ashcraft will go for the Reds against the Rockies. You will have Ryan Nelson facing the A's for the Diamondbacks. You will have Yu Darvish facing the Royals for the Padres. Griffin Canning and Kyle Bradish facing each other in Angels-Orioles. Edward Cabrera facing the Nationals for the Marlins. Garrett Cole will be pitching for the Yankees against the Blue Jays. Kodai Senga will face the Rays for the Mets. Corbin Burns and Adam Wainwright will face each other in Brewers-Cardinals. Spencer Strider and his 18 strikeouts per nine. I think it's 15 actually. His 15 strikeouts per nine will face the Rangers. That'll be cool. And then matchup of the day comes from Twins Dodgers. It'll be Sonny Gray versus Dustin May.
Yeah.
And we'll skip Thursday.
Good name combination.
Yeah, we'll skip Thursday because there's really not much announced. We'll end it there.
All right. So that does it for this installment of Above Replacement Radio. We hope you enjoyed this one. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and want to watch the conversation as it happens, go to our YouTube channel. It is called Above Replacement Radio. Have a full video podcast for this one. And if you just want to check out our general digital content, which we'll be ramping up, go to the YouTube channel and subscribe to it so you don't miss anything. It is called Above Replacement Radio. And if you're watching on YouTube and want to know how to get the audio-only streams, go to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, where we are called Above Replacement Radio. And if you want to follow us on social media, follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta, and follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran, and follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all the show needs. We hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you on probably Friday, where we will be talking all the happenings in Major League Baseball. Once again, see you then.
This conversation is over.